Welcome to another episode of The Heart of the Matter. Today we're talking about taking your innovations and bringing them to fruition, commercializing them and so on. And with me to discuss this topic, I have Ms. Thelma Ekiyor and Dr. Dayo Olakulehin. Dr. Olakulehin is the inventor, and Thelma is the one who has helped him get his invention out into the market. So we're going to have an interesting discussion. Dayo, can I first of all ask you what your innovation is all about? Explain what it is. What made you think about what you could do?
I think to properly understand what innovation is about, I need to paint a picture of the problem. The problem I identified, this was 2012 at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, and I was working then as an intern and house officer, first at the pediatric department, working with kids and babies and units. And at the time in the facility, there was no pediatric ventilator. Now, let me explain what that is. When our patients are unable to breathe spontaneously, one of the things we happen to take for granted, they require a machine to do that for them, and that exists because people have asked me, before your innovation, how did people cope? The ventilators exist, but they are extremely expensive to access, especially for the majority of our population, who happen to be somewhere down there in the lower class. And the moment for me was, I resumed my shift to do what doctors should do, save lives, and I was told that there was a child that needed manual ventilation, and I was very glad to do it because I felt the system had failed the child in our inability to get him properly connected to a ventilator that was designed to do that pretty efficiently for this child. Pretty young boy, 4 or 5 years old, and I kept on using the CPR bag, or commonly known as an ambo bag, keeping child. It was around 2 a.m. I had done this for hours, and being human.
You by yourself?
Oh, yes.
You were just
breathing
for the child?
Exactly.
Okay.
Doing that. And this is a similar scenario in a lot of settings, especially in developing nations. The moment these patients cannot get into the intensive care or get connected to a ventilator, somebody needs to do that for them, pending whatever miracle happens.
Surely you would have had a shift.
Oh, yes.
You couldn't just stand there doing that for an hour, not to talk to 2
I
hours.
actually took over from a colleague to continue that process. And it was 2 a.m., I was a night shift that day, and being human, I dozed off. Fortunately for me, it didn't last for too long because the brain is oxygen dependent, and if that doesn't happen, period of 3 to 4 minutes, there is irreversible brain damage. And the father was just by my side and he said, "Doctor, with so much empathy and emotion," he offered to continue the bagging process, get me a drink, something to keep me. Do you want to wash your face? Do you need to rest? And in that moment, I felt there has to be a better way. And my mind felt there was already a better way. Let them get to a ventilator, let people buy ventilators, let people donate, let healthcare be better financed. And I let it go for a minute until I had the same incident in the adult emergency with another patient, and this is a day-to-day occurrence in emergency settings. Now, we are talking about Lagos. Lagos is the urban city. Lagos is the metropolitan center. Let's try to imagine what goes on in the rural areas, in the places where they don't know what a ventilator is. These healthcare workers are accustomed to, they are the ventilators really, and they have to do this and keep these patients alive. I felt that process was prone to failure. There was a huge risk of failure associated with that process, and it was at that moment that the burden transformed into an idea. And I believe clearly it was a God moment for me. It gave me the idea for the D-box, and I felt I shouldn't be the one doing this. There is something that can do this pretty more efficiently than I can do. Sometimes I'm excited.
They won't fall asleep.
Exactly. Sometimes I'm pumping too fast. Sometimes I'm a bit slower. There is too much attached to the life and the destiny of a human being for us to just hand it to the frailties of a human. And it was then God gave me the idea for the D-box. Why don't you make a little portable machine, preferably battery powered, considering our environment where electricity might be a challenge, and just place the bag inside. Let it do the compression for you. I mean, it was so simple. I was so sure something like it was supposed to exist somewhere. It wasn't until much later when things really got serious. I figured that the potential use for this was massive. At the moment, I wasn't thinking about the numbers. I wasn't thinking about how many places we could sell the D-Box. I was actually thinking about the number of lives that we could save, the number of parents that could have a good night's rest, knowing fully well that even though we couldn't afford the sophisticated machine that should be doing this, we have something here that we are pretty sure, even if electricity was to go off, it's all gone, and then maybe our child, our father, our brother, our sister will stay alive.
So that was the birth of the D-Box, you call it. A number of questions. First of all, you're a doctor.
Yeah.
But I guess somewhere in your background, you probably did a little bit of physics and so on, because what qualified you to be able to design a D-Box?
Interestingly, I've always loved mathematics and physics. I grew up in a family of 4 boys. I'm the last, and I have 2 engineers in the family. My exposure to engineering was interesting. I loved technical drawing, but I found myself in medical school. Maybe for this purpose, maybe for the millions of lives attached to this that will potentially be saved. For me, movement is like the most basic thing in the world. Even anybody anywhere could think of this, but somehow because there was already an existing solution, we chose not to pay attention to that. And we need to think for the masses. We can't just fold our hands and say the fact that you cannot afford it doesn't mean the solution doesn't exist.
There are a couple of things that are coming to my mind on this. First of all, you did mathematics, you did physics, and today you realize that it wasn't wasted. A lot of people would have been kicking and screaming to physics class or maths class because they wanted to go to biology or zoology and so on. So somehow God doesn't waste any of the time acquired in the past. Yeah. And the other thing is that it was just there in your background. Now, question, what makes the D-Box just as good as the sophisticated equipment you called it?
I think the very simple answer to that is it does the job. It doesn't get any more sophisticated than that. However, to be fair on the price tag attached to conventional ventilators costs somewhere between $15,000 to $30,000. They are designed to do a lot of more invasive monitorings. They're designed to adjust different modes. I'm trying to avoid being too technical, but the summary is there is a lot more these ventilators can do, and they have their place. They are to be used in a critical care setting where you have critical care physicians, critical care nurses who have gone through stringent
somebody
training.
Who's in a coma,
exactly,
that kind of situation.
Exactly, exactly. So it has its place, and we are not taking it out of its place. What we are just saying is for the majority of patients who cannot get to that place for reasons of cost and for reasons of availability, we need to give them a better option.
Okay, now, you've got an idea. It's going to save lives, but that idea has not yet come to fruition. Even if you had the equipment, you've got the designs. How do you get it into the market? That is where Thelma came into the picture, because first of all, how do you get to know that she could help you solve your problem?
I think that's an interesting conversation, and it's going to permanently remain a part of the D-Box story. The reason why I have to emphasize this is there are probably people watching at home with some brilliant idea and absolutely nobody to talk to. The issue with someone to talk to is, depending on how valuable your idea is, you don't want it lost, you don't want it stolen. You need to talk to trusted people, and essentially people who can do something about it. This experience I had and the conception of the idea was in 2012. I didn't meet Ms. Ekiyor until 2015. So for almost an entire period of 3 years, there were experiences that made my conversation with her easier, that made it more convincing that we have something here. But
you were
those
able to
moments,
make a presentation to her,
yes,
that was well conceived because of all the experiences.
Exactly. It was a brief conversation because of her many years of experience. She knows what a good idea is, and she knows you don't need 50-page presentation or a 1-hour session to convince someone that an idea is good. And the first thing I did, which I would encourage innovators or people with ideas to do, is to get education. I think it's really, really key. Talk to someone. I went online and I took a course.
Okay.
So
when you say get education, I mean, you're already a doctor.
Yes.
So education in?
Education, this is business, and innovators need to know this. I mean, I've read a couple of business books. It doesn't make me a business professional.
Okay.
I can meet someone by the roadside that says, I've read medical books, I know physiology, I know anatomy. I'm not going to give my mother to you to treat. Okay. You can have all the knowledge, but it's a little bit beyond the knowledge. Okay. So innovators need to, you are educated to enlighten your mind and to put you in a position of safety, but you always need to talk to professionals.
Okay, now still on this road, we're going to come back and talk to you about that first meeting.
I guess.
But we need to go on a break now. Viewers, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in a moment, so stay tuned. Welcome back to the Heart of the Matter, where we're talking with Dr. Dayo Olakulehin and Ms. Thelma Ekiyor about bringing innovative inventions into the marketplace. Just before we went on the break, and we've been talking to you all the time, I want to get a feel from Thelma. You walk in, you probably knew he was coming, you'd given him an appointment. What was your response when you saw him and he made his presentation?
Well, I think I'm not sure who was more surprised about how quickly the meeting went.
Okay.
Dayo had been referred to me by a respected colleague. They said, there's this guy who has an amazing idea. You know, people tell you that quite a bit, so you're never too sure if it is true. But then he came and he said, I've created this thing, I've patented it. That caught my attention because that took it from the realm. Exactly, of just an idea to somebody who really wanted to protect what they had done. And intellectual property protection is very crucial. So he started with the problem and then told me what he had created. And I don't have a medical background. So another thing about innovations is that it has to resonate with the average person. It can't be too complicated that people have to wonder how it will work in their lives. And he presented it, and inside of 5 minutes, I knew it was something we wanted to be part of. But there was a challenge of him paying us our fees to get this started, because obviously we're a business, and we help clients, realize their social impact ambitions. And so I said to him, we charge for these services. How do you want to do this? And he said, I have absolutely no money. And there was a humility that I liked as well. And he also talked about how, he knew that he was just at the beginning of the journey and that he needed help, which is very different to a lot of innovators that I meet. They always feel that, I have this idea.
I think it's those 3 years.
Yeah.
Having the idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they always feel I have an idea and it's going to happen now, and, I don't need mentoring, I don't need any. But Dayo, I said to him, look, this is going to be a little bit difficult. You would have to do a lot of what we ask you to do because getting money is not easy. And he said, I'm ready and I'm committed. And then I said something else to him, which I'm not sure if he remembers. I said, you would have to quit your job. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Because I said, you can't do this part-time. There's no part-time innovation, And he said, I'll quit my job in a month or so. And he did. So for us, we waived our fees and converted it into equity in his business. That was something else that we liked, that he was willing to do that. Some people don't want to give you shares in their business. So in one day, he had ticked all the boxes that were crucial for us to see whether we wanted to partner or not. And this was a year ago. A year later, I have to say we already know that it's not only a lucrative business, but it's also a very synergetic relationship where he's, impacted our business positively, but we've also contributed to him.
Dayo, did it cost you a lot of money to actually get it to the point that you got it to before you brought it to Afrigrants?
It did in education costs, it did in patenting costs. initially, but up to the point I met her, all I had was an idea. Okay. And then one of the things she said that day is, we don't fund individuals, we fund companies. And it was at that moment I knew, well, not at that moment, it was that moment I knew the urgency of forming my company, because I had a casual conversation with a friend that this thing is going to save lives and somebody is going to have to do it, even if that person is me. So we had been joking about starting a company, medical doctors that should be busy saving lives. We're having a conversation about starting a company. I had nursed that thought so much that the moment she said so, I told her I had the name for the company. And there was an initial shock. That's not the name the company bears today anyways, but there was something, and I think it meant that this is a rookie, but this is a pretty prepared rookie.
Okay, what about the actual bringing this thing together? The nuts and bolts of the invention. How do you get through that process?
I think one of the strengths I've enjoyed is being blessed with wonderful people, and I've enjoyed that so much. The trusted colleague she talked about was someone I had a conversation with, and he said, I know someone that can help you. I'm going to make that connection happen. I knew that to get the prototype ready, something people could see that did the job, I told her that I have this idea in my head, I have these pictures. She said we need to see something. Whoever is going to invest needs to see something. And then I ran out to friends. Anybody knows someone that makes, building designs? I have these pictures in my mind. I need somebody to bring it out. Oh, talk to this guy, talk to this guy. Let's go beyond this. How about animations? I don't really have to think in pictures. You can put life to my pictures and get us to see something. And then the animation came out just because I asked, and I made those meetings, paid some money to get it done. But communicating the idea of the D-Box was a lot easier because there was something people could see. Even people who had zero medical background, they could see the CPR bag and a human being trying to keep a patient alive, and they could see the D-Box taking over that process from a human and doing that pretty efficiently. So I was glad I did that animation, and those were some of the initial steps, early steps that I was able to take.
Those are still animations though?
Yes.
The actual prototype?
Yes.
How did that come?
Just with the animations, I just need to say this just to encourage some of the innovators listening, because getting a prototype ready it's like a tipping point. It's uphill, it's tiresome, it's burdensome, burns a lot of you. But once you get to that step, it gets better going forward. With my animation, I made a presentation to the emergency department of the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, and they saw a solution immediately. With my animation, I made a presentation to National Orthopedic Hospital in Gobi, and they saw a solution immediately. Ms. Ekiyor was kind enough to fix an appointment with the Niger Delta University Teaching Hospital, Okolobiri Bayelsa. That facility at the time did not have an intensive care unit. They saw the animation, and they saw a solution immediately. So that was all what we did. But when it was time to get the prototype ready, the main question was, who is going to get it done? Where are we going to get it done? And then I met with her, and I said, I have an idea. She said, what's that? I said, I'm actually moving to Canada for a couple of things. Why don't we look for engineering design companies in Canada that can do this? I said, brilliant. What we want to see is a prototype that works. We believe that that should be an environment where you can get that done. And this was August last year when I made the move. And a couple of months later, I got into very interesting conversations there, and we were able to get the prototype ready.
Okay. Let me go back to Thelma, because he is one of many people. And Afrigrants, the foundation you run, no, it's not a foundation. It's, it's into the business of bringing ideas and inventions into the market. What are the other kinds of things that you've seen in this journey?
So what has happened almost organically, when we started, we really saw that there was a gap, that there were tons of people in Nigeria with good ideas, actually Africa, but because we're Nigerians, we said, let's start here. with good ideas that will never get to market. So we felt that there was an area to help. And we felt that people were only looking at what I would call the traditional sources of financing. So the first thing they wanted were banks. Okay. And the interest rates in Nigeria will kill an entrepreneur. So you would start to fail, essentially. I mean, Bank of Industry is doing a good job now to help graduates, but it didn't exist at the time when we started. So we opened up, through references, through people going to our websites, through events we do, we're inundated with entrepreneurs or innovators coming to pitch ideas. We mostly these days, we get IT, information technology ideas, and agriculture ideas. We're particularly interested in agriculture ideas because we know that there's simply not enough jobs that can be created for Nigerian youth. We have to encourage them to innovate. And agriculture hires a lot of people at once. And so we're in the process now at the tail end, which if you allow me, I'll talk about the gestation period of innovations, because I think people have to know that it doesn't happen in one day. And so we're actually right now about to launch a couple of agriculture projects that will be extremely lucrative for the entrepreneurs, but they will also create a lot of jobs. And that really excites us when we see that, yes, somebody has come up with something, but so many people would benefit. We also met this amazing entrepreneur who created a mobile phone for visually and hearing impaired. Okay. So what we do for... A Nigerian. And what we do in such cases is, at first we would tell people, well, you have to pay us a fee to bring you to market. But we've noticed that a lot of young people can't afford our fees. So what we do is, if they're willing, we take an equity stake in the business. And we tell them that they have to commit to the organizational development process, which means we sit on their boards, we let them know what it takes, because they like the title of CEO, but many of them don't like the responsibilities of CEO. So we tell them about the responsibilities, about running a company, how you have to be accountable. And, knock on wood, a few years down the line, we have success stories. Now, another thing that when we created our company, we said, you know what, even if we got one innovation a year, and some people have asked me, how is that success? Well, if you get $1 billion company a year started, you don't need to work for the rest of the year. So it wasn't about numbers. It was about seeing quality companies through the process and then owning a stake in their company. So agriculture, we have somebody, earlier I was talking about an entrepreneur who created low-fat plantain chips. And, some of the ideas just blow you away because you're wondering, how come nobody else has thought about this? There's an entrepreneur we're working with now for a Nigerian version of packed diet meals. So diet meals that you would get from Weight Watchers abroad. Now there's the Nigerian version, and the meals are packed.
Does that include Nigerian food?
It's totally Nigerian food.
Okay.
All the menus are Nigerian. So we come into that. We don't have the background in all of these areas, so we get experts to test them. What Dayo hasn't mentioned was that I made him see a number of people, just to make sure that I wasn't the only one who felt it was a good idea. And one of the things that made me realize that Dayo was sitting on a winner was I introduced him to a wealthy Nigerian who invests in social projects. And during the launch meeting, the guy said, I will give you money today to get the prototype started. So I just felt that I was safe. Because if no one else thinks the idea is good, you're really in a problem. So just to give you a nutshell, they come in all shapes and sizes, but the seriousness to go through the process is what makes us invest.
Okay. Now back to you, Dayo. You're not practicing medicine anymore. You're running your company.
I'm not practicing medicine at the moment.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Because it was in the process of practicing medicine that you discovered this need and were able to invent something to meet the need. What I want to ask is, are there any other inventions in the pipeline?
Oh, yes. It's a big yes, because now I feel more daring, I feel more capable. The problems are there. They're there staring at us. And one of the brilliant conversations that my product launch has had is people feel comfortable talking to me about ideas. innovation in healthcare is unique. It's not just business, it's lives. And once it involves lives, there are a lot of stakes involved. And somehow, for those who believe in God, there is backing, there is help, people. So I like to see myself as help for whoever it is that has an idea. We can have business conversations. Day to day, I'm becoming a better businessman. So I'm not shying away from conversation of, well, brilliant idea, I can get this out, but what is in it for me? But more importantly, I think the human part still speaks louder. Let's get this out. It can be done. And those conversations are ongoing.
It can save lives.
And it can save lives, yes.
Which is the key.
Yeah.
And so going forward, you'll be back in the hospital at some point.
If for anything to get more problems to solve, yes.
And the other thing is from sitting where I am, the success of your invention is going to depend from this point on your ability to market it. So
Yes.
I think you really need to stick close to Thelma to make sure that...
Very true.
Can you tell us a little bit about the gestation period for inventions?
I think once the idea comes to anyone's mind, which is what it starts, it's still not serious. If you can get to the point where you create a tangible version of the idea, because people are not seeing your mind, so they don't know what is happening. If you create a tangible version of the idea, and then if you want it to be a business, register a structure around that idea. So on average, it's about 12 months that it takes from when you get the idea, have a tangible version, and then we get you to financing. The 12 months is critical because the kind of, like right now, we're in the process of getting Dayo a huge amount of money for the concept testing. And they want to even see a track record. One of the things they asked in the questions was, what have you done to date? As an innovator, you must show what you have done. If you don't take your ideas seriously, nobody else will. So people want to see steps of seriousness. And that includes registering a company. Creating a board shows that there will be governance around the idea. That you won't wake up one day and say, it's my idea, and run away with the money. People are afraid of investing in those type of things. But when you show that there are multiple actors involved in this and that there's a mechanism for governance, people trust the idea more. And then, very importantly, they want to show that your business can live beyond the idea. One of the reasons why we invested in Dayo was that when Dayo presented it to us, I asked him, so this is what the business will be about, nothing else? And he said, no, the business is going to create a medical incubator, which is what he talked about, where other medical students, that caught my attention, can come and create ideas and we can create businesses out of them. For us, that also showed vision and longevity. So in summary, these are the critical things that Nigerian innovators need to think about because there's so much out there and we want people to succeed.
Now, at what stage should a potential, an inventor come to see you? When do you want to see them?
Sometimes they come even when the idea is just still rough and they're just, I have this thing that keeps me up at night. I always tell them, if you can't sleep, it's a good indicator that you're supposed to do it. But if it just occurs to you and you just move on, like all of us have ideas on how to solve the traffic in Lagos, that doesn't make us innovators. But if what you come up with keeps you up, you can't shake it off, then chances are you're supposed to do something about this. So trust those instincts. And if you don't know how to even shape what we call idea generation, come to us, we'll help you with the process. We've realized we are not too dogmatic on our fees anymore because we've realized that the role we play here, if we stick to our fees, nobody will come to market. So we have private sector organizations that pay us for this. But for young entrepreneurs, we invest in them by giving our services as equity. Yes.
Well, I think that's about as much as this program can take today. It's been such a thrill. And Dayo, the heart of the matter wishes you all the very best with this and subsequent inventions. May God save many lives through your inventions. And Thelma, it's been a great privilege to have you back on the heart of the matter. And we also trust that potential investors will bring their business to you so that they can also access the market. Thank you very, very much, both of you, for coming. It's been our delight to present this episode of The Heart of the Matter. We'll be back again next week with another episode. So until then, stay blessed.